escaping snap oversteer. New filtering methods in these. So we hear about snap oversteer in the automotive media, but what is the deal with it? Is it really a problem? No, not really. It's mostly a driving problem, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Before we talk about how to correct it once you encounter a snap oversteer situation, let's talk about preventing it. One of the best ways to prevent it is driving smoothly. Another way to prevent it is to check your toe curves. The AP1 S2000 was known to toe out in the rear, and what that means is that your rear tire will steer itself through a turn. Basically, it's changing your slip angle, which you don't want, and it causes some adverse handling characteristics sometimes. If you read a vehicle dynamics textbook, this is an easy fix, and it's important to check your toe curves. People do this all the time, so it's just not a big deal. With the S2000, the AP1 that I was building, I could not install a bump steer kit because I was building it for a specific time trials class, and the bump steer kit would have bumped me up to a higher class, and so I did not install it on mine. So let's say you encounter it, you don't drive smoothly, and your car snaps sideways, and you're like, oh gosh, what do I do? The first step is to counter steer. You are neutralizing the weight transfer. You feel the weight transfer to the outside as you're sliding, and when you counter steer, you feel it settle. In that split second that it settles, you need to turn it back to center. Turn it back to neutral. You're neutralizing your slip angles, you're neutralizing the weight transfer, and then you reload the tires and turn into the corner. Now also, while you're doing this, it's important to be squeezing back on the throttle to settle the rear end of the car. If you have a high horsepower car, you do not want to squeeze on too much throttle. If you're in a Viper or a Corvette and you squeeze on too much throttle, you'll just spin out, so don't do that. Also, if you're in any car, even a low horsepower car, and you lift off the throttle while trying to correct, you're just going to be fighting it and you're probably going to spin out. Squeezing back on the throttle is very important to settle the rear end. Sometimes you misjudge it, so sometimes I correct and I think the car settled, I start to turn in, realize the car is not settled, and I have to go back out again to settle the car, and then I return to the neutral slip angle. And so at the point that you finally settle the car and you're at neutral, you can turn back in and reload the tires. You want to avoid over-rotating at all costs. Over-rotating slows down your lap, it is not good. Most of the time you can recover, but there will always be some time where you can't, and if you're in a head-to-head race, you might cause an accident, you might lose your car, and that is a big deal. So you want to avoid this stuff at all costs, and the way to do that is practice. You don't exceed the limit, you know when the limit's coming, you can tell when you're exceeding the slip angle in the rear or the slip angle in the front. So here are some common things that have caused me to spin out. In the Corvette, I mis-rev matched a downshift and it sent the car sideways. In the S2000, I came into the corner and popped off the brakes and sent the car sideways. My last track day with the S2000 CR, I was going to miss my apex, so I was backing off the throttle to try to get my car to rotate and turn in more so I could hit the apex. I ended up over-rotating and I had to correct, and I lost some time as a result of that. Mechanical failures. I experienced mechanical failure in the Viper with the steering that caused me to spin out. I experienced a mechanical failure in the BMW where the coolant system blew up and blew coolant all over my tires, and I literally did a 360 on the track, and that was one of the most terrifying things ever. and that is why I went back to driving a Honda, because I do not want to die. So there are so many causes for this stuff, and sometimes this is going to be out of your control, and you have to accept the risk. If you see someone ahead of you on the racetrack spinning out, it's really best to slow down and back off, because you don't want to get tangled up in that. The number one goal is always to bring your car home in one piece. So again, let's talk about correcting the snap oversteer. Cancel out the weight transfer, squeeze on the throttle. When the weight transfer gets canceled out, return the wheel to neutral, and then turn back into the corner. It's a quick 1-2 motion. In the media, we hear the term overcorrecting, but overcorrecting doesn't really exist. If you overcorrect, you waited too long. It should really be called right correcting and wrong correcting. If you overcorrect, you're doing it wrong. Don't do it wrong. Go out and practice, and hopefully this saves some people from spinning out and hitting a pole or totaling their car or whatever. So thank you guys for watching, and enjoy your car.